Hey, Think Community, welcome to this episode. Looking forward to talking with Dr. Tracy Gapin. Tracy, it's great to connect with you. You're a leading men's health, longevity expert, optimization, the founder of the Gapin Institute for Precision Medicine, and a board certified urologist with over 25 years of experience. You've built something called Peak Launch, which we're going to talk about. And if anybody wants to get information about you, they can go to gapininstitute.com. So if we go to your website, it says, be your absolute best again. Let's start there and work backwards.
Yeah.
What did people look like and feel like when they were at their best? And where did they start to walk down the wrong path to get to a place where they're not their best?
There you go. Yeah. First of all, hey, thanks so much for having me with you here. I'm really looking forward to a fun time with you. Yeah. So to answer your question, we can all, and you mentioned you're 53. I'm 53 myself as well. And most of the, the leaders, the driven, successful entrepreneurs that we work with, you remember a time when your mind was crystal clear, you had clarity, you had focus, you're able to think sharply on your feet. You had energy, you can go all day. You could wake up in the morning, work out, crush it all day, and then come home and still have time and energy to spend time with your partner, your loved one, be intimate in the evening, and you're crushing it. You're killing it at life. And then things start to change. Your energy starts to diminish a little bit. Your focus starts to drop off. Your drive isn't the same as it was before. Stress starts to compound. And although we like to deny stress affects us, so I hate to even suggest that any of the listeners are dealing with the impact of stress, we start to notice our body isn't the same. We don't recover from injury like we did when we were younger. We don't recover from illness. Maybe we have some belly fat that we can't shake. Maybe you're killing it in the gym, but you're not seeing any results like you did before. And you're wondering, why can't I put on muscle no matter what I do? You're struggling with sleep. You may have a hard time falling asleep, or more commonly, you wake up 2 or 3 in the morning and now your mind's going, you're thinking about what I should have done yesterday, what I got to do tomorrow. And you wake up in the morning, you feel like crap because you didn't get that good restorative quality of sleep, and you can't wait to go to bed again. It's the same picture I hear over and over again. That's really what a lot of successful, driven leaders face, where their mind and body just isn't working like it did when they were younger. And so I hear that all the time. I just want to be my absolute best again. I want to be like I was back when I was killing it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's work backwards again. And start with the end of the day, sleep. I agree with you. Sleep is so important. You can look at study after study. Arianna Huffington has done a lot of work on the topic of sleep. How do people not only prioritize sleep, but what's behind sleep, right? I mean, because there's a lot there. It's a big question, right? Stress, what you eat, what time you go to bed. I mean, but just unpack how to get, a better night's sleep. What are 1 or 2 things people can begin to do?
Sure. So I think first, a double click on the emphasis you made on how important sleep is. Sleep is when we repair ourselves. It's when we restore ourselves. It's when we recover. And, if you're trying to build muscle, I want to be clear that you don't build muscle when you're working out. Everyone thinks when I'm in the gym, I'm building muscle. You're actually you're actively tearing down, destroying muscle intentionally, so that when you repair and recover, it builds up bigger, better, stronger, right? That typically happens mostly while you're sleeping. And so if you don't get the restorative full effect of sleep, you don't get that. You don't get the anabolic effect. You don't get the repair of and the memory consolidation and the hormone production, especially testosterone and growth hormone and others. You need sleep for cognitive function. For so many reasons, sleep is important, and it's even tied to longevity. So that's the emphasis. There are 2 reasons why people suffer with poor quality sleep.
Yeah.
1 is self-inflicted. I do the wrong things.
Okay.
And 2 is what's wrong. I haven't done anything wrong.
Okay.
Self-inflicted is you're so busy, you're focused on your career, or you have a social life, or you want to binge on Netflix with your wife at night, where it's 12:30 and you're just now going to bed, and you got to wake up at 6. That's self-inflicted. You have not set yourself up for success. You have intentionally sabotaged yourself by minimizing, neglecting the most important 7-8 hours of your day, and that is sleep. And so that's fixable. That's correctable. The other is the unintentional. This is where I did everything right, doc. I went to bed at 10:30. I'm asleep by 11. I wake up at 6:30, and I feel like crap. And my wearables tell me I got no deep sleep. Okay, which is the quality restorative stage of sleep. That's some other issues. That's more internal. Things like high cortisol can do that. Inflammation, hormone problems can disrupt quality sleep, but you have to fix that as well. So it's not always intentionally.
Let's talk about the fix, right? Obviously, you're not going to fix anybody on this podcast, but when you talk about inflammation, cortisol, to some people, those are new words. And so what's one thing that they can do to not have those two things affect them as much? If they're listening to this now or in 3 years, what's one thing they can do that will give them 5 more minutes of better sleep? You know what I mean? Like, what's a small piece? Yeah.
So things, first I'll focus on sleep hygiene because this can affect it. Sleep hygiene simply means, what are you doing in the evening before you go to bed? How can you set yourself up best for sleep? And I like to think of it as the 2-hour window before you go to bed is the most critical time as it relates to how your behavior, lifestyle is affecting sleep. No alcohol, no fluid intake, no food intake, no blue light for those last 2 hours. Blue light, that means any device, phone, iPad, electronic, laptop, etc. They're all emitting blue light, and you need to really be avoiding those in those last 2 hours. So no food, no drink, no alcohol, no electronics those last 2 hours. What the hell do I do then, doc? Like, what do I just sit there and look at myself? No, there are 5 things you can do those last 2 hours. One is read a book, not a Kindle, but an actual paper book, preferably something that is not work related. So maybe it's a passion, maybe it's fiction, whatever. So 1 is reading. 2 is journaling. The most important time to really consolidate and focus on gratitude, what you're thankful for, what you've accomplished that day, what you've achieved, goal setting, what you want to accomplish tomorrow. Consolidate that, journaling. So
one of the things I want to make a comment on journaling real quickly. I agree with you. I think when I do read before bed, it's a game changer, even if it's a page.
Oh yeah.
Journaling, one of the things I talk about when I'm I'm a business coach, when I'm talking to clients is, kind of a wind down routine, which is, what are your three small wins from the day, 3 small wins that you're going to have the next day, just kind of manifesting and, kind of putting some additional intent, and then 3 things you're grateful for. I think when you can end in gratitude, it then takes that journaling to the next level, and you can do everything I just said in 30 seconds.
Absolutely. It takes very little time. Very little time.
Okay.
But I totally agree with you. It's the intentionality of it, and it's the focus on that positivity and the gratitude that makes all the difference in the world for you, without question. And so the second is journaling. The third one is mindfulness practices, meditation. And I'm a science guy. I'm a surgeon. I've been doing robotic surgery for 23 years before I left traditional medicine. That being said, I now recognize the power of mindset work. And so this could simply mean, when we say meditation, people think it's all woo. It could simply be just sit there, close your eyes quietly. There are great sound apps if you need. There are guided meditation apps on your phone if you need to get you in that state. It's simply closing your mind and focus on nothing. Focus on your breathing. Box breathing, great time while you're meditating. And it could be 5-10 minutes. Doesn't need to be very long.
Right.
Great way to calm your mind, calm your body, and kind of prepare yourself for sleep. So that's number 3. Again, reading.
For those listening, we talk a lot about meditation on this podcast, Tracy. So, and I actually talk a lot about box breathing because I think it's easy where, you inhale for 5 seconds, you hold for 5 seconds, you exhale for 5 seconds, you hold for 5 seconds, do it 5 times.
That's right.
It's free, and it really does get you out of that fight or flight and begin to clear your brain a little bit. Yeah. I'm a big meditator. I've been doing it since my mid-20s.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, my son, he's 11 going on 12. He's a competitive golfer. And I love how he uses that tool. I share that tool with him when he's on the golf course, when he has a bogey hole.
Yeah.
You would think it's life ending for a kid, but he's able to really implement that and help really control his mind and bring him back to a centered state, and such a powerful tool in any time of your day, but especially at nighttime. I love it as well. So that's number 3. The fourth is sauna. So sauna is a great biohack that a lot of people talk about. There's a lot of science and studies that show the benefits of sauna on actual longevity, on reducing inflammation, on hormones, all this great impacts that it provides. At nighttime is a great time to do that. And so you could do 20, 30 minutes. I have a home sauna. It's on the ground in our bedroom. You lay in there. You could do it with the UV light or without. It doesn't matter. Just get a sauna that you can put in your home somewhere. Great time to do sauna. And then the 5th one is sex. What better time to be intimate with your partner, and what better way to relax your mind and body for sleep than sex? So in those last 2 hours, again, reading, journaling, meditating, sauna, and sex are great things that you can do. I like to joke and say, don't do them all at the same time. That'd be really awkward. And
I was just going to ask you that. Which of those can you combine? Yeah.
Yeah. Super weird. So that's what you ask, what can you do to improve sleep? Those are the things you could do intentionally to set yourself up for sleep. But then you ask about, a lot of things that will wake us up in the middle of the night. It's inflammation. It's excess cortisol, or I call it system overload. And that means that your nervous system is revved up. And when you sleep, you go through cycles, stages of sleep, where think of it going under the water. Like when you go swimming, you're above the water, you're awake, you go just under the surface. That's REM sleep. You're arousable to sound. You're dreaming at this point. Your eyes are moving. That's really the least, the lowest, the least intense stage of sleep, if you will. Then you go to non-REM, light sleep, and then down to deep sleep. The first half of the night is where you get all your deep sleep. And then you come back up again. You come just below the surface and back down it like that. So you're going through about 4 times a night, you'll go through the cycle. When you come up to the top of that cycle, you can imagine you're just at the surface of the water. That's when excess cortisol inflammation can wake you up. And so how do you alleviate that? That is things like what you eat, things like alcohol, toxins in our environment, hormones, all these other systemic things that requires more precision medicine approach to really understand what's driving that. But things you could do, it's avoiding, like alcohol, for example. This is the 3rd time mentioning the word alcohol on this call already. Alcohol crushes our system. It crushes our nervous system, destroys hormone production. It alters our sleep. Yes, it makes you fall asleep, but it destroys the quality of your sleep.
Yeah.
The quality of the foods you eat dramatically impact this as well. Work-life balance, stuff like that.
So as somebody who's listening to this and they're saying to themselves, this sounds amazing, but I have to work, the last 2 hours of my day. I need to watch a show or the news to kind of wind down because that's my habit.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a drink at the end of the day, and groceries are really expensive. So I eat what I can eat. And so,
very common picture.
Yeah. So I say that because I think someone who's listening to this, there's kind of a law of proximity of, perfection. And then there is, for many, I think, reality. And there's those first steps of, what can I do and what can I afford to do?
Yeah.
And so how do you guide your people to kind of, shift? And you mentioned earlier, mindset being a huge piece of this, right? A lot of times we get, many people, I think, get stuck in their habits, and they have their wind down. They have what gives them the dopamine. They have what, calms them down. And maybe they're not thinking about their sleep in the way that they should be until maybe it's too late. And so I'm kind of wrapping this around kind of a preventative umbrella. But how does someone who's overwhelmed by intrigued, but overwhelmed by what you're talking about, even take the first step?
Yep. Great point. And this goes to the power of coaching and the power of intentionality. And I love the book Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. Atomic Habits by James Clear is amazing as well. I like both Tiny Habits
I think it's one of the best books. I think Atomic Habits should be mandatory reading. Atomic Habits by James Clear should be mandatory reading for everyone starting in middle school, mandatory in high school, college, grad schools, medical schools, law schools. Yeah.
100% agree. And the main concept here is, how can I be 1% better every day? 1%. We're not talking about, like, transformation doesn't come from massive change and leaps and bounds at a time. That's the misconception. It comes from little baby steps, tiny steps, tiny habits. How can I be 1% better every day?
Yeah.
And how can I set myself up for that? So you bring up a great point, a drink in the evening. What if you decided that I'm just going to have one drink a week if I'm having two? Or let's say I'm drinking every night of the week. How about, let's see if you can just drink 5 nights of the week.
Yeah.
And then let's see if we could drink just 3 nights of the week. Let's see if I can replace, I go out for happy hour. I'm a wealth advisor, and I have these social engagements, and I'm around everyone. We're at the bar and we're drinking, and so I'll have 3 or 4 drinks on a Friday, Saturday night, maybe on a Tuesday night for a special event, whatever. So what if maybe you had one drink instead of drinking 3 or 4 vodka tonics, for example, vodka sodas? What if you had one vodka soda, and then thereafter you just had soda?
Yeah.
Just do that one little thing. You see how we're trying to make it so small of a change, incremental change. That's how you really see results. And that's how you can, for your win for the day was, instead of having 3 vodka sodas tonight at happy hour, I only had 1.
Yeah.
That's a win.
That's a win. That's a win. And that's, I'm glad you, and it's so interesting as a coach, and I work with, solopreneurs to Fortune 100 companies and salespeople, executives, managers. I find sometimes that people resonate almost with what's 0.01% something you can do, because it seems less. It seems even tinier, but the outcome of what they say is the same. But I think what you talk about is really important with it, which is being intentional. So Think Community, we talk a lot about this topic on the show, and being intentional is, based on what Tracy's talking about. Maybe you map out with intention a 2-day plan. And then once you can get a 2-day plan going, or you start with a 1-day plan, a 2-day plan, and then a 3-day plan, and slowly kind of graduate with intention to a 7, 8, 9, up to maybe a 30-day plan. But I think your point of intention and small little habit changes is the key. It's not cold turkey. It's not about perfection. Really, what I'm hearing you say, like most things, it's about progress.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And a lot of the leaders who come to us, they heard about these amazing peptides, which we can talk about. I love peptides and all that kind of cool longevity molecule. What about rapamycin and all these other things? Those are great. But this stuff here, this is the fundamental foundational stuff that actually moves the needle way more than that kind of stuff.
Right.
That kind of stuff is like the icing on your cake. And these are key fundamental ingredients that if you miss them, you're not going to get the results that you're looking for from all that biohack, sexy stuff that's out there. Yeah. And so it's little incremental change that you can make every day. That one little decision that can make all the difference in the world. Like another one is like simply avoiding a plastic water bottle. We know now that plastic water bottles are loaded with chemicals, bisphenol A or BPA and phthalates that leach into the water, and they crush your hormone production. Things like testosterone and thyroid and other key hormones in your body. By simply making the decision that I'm going to have a stainless steel water bottle with me with filtered water, and I'm not going to ever succumb. I'm not going to ever put myself in a position where I need to drink water from a plastic water bottle. That's a one little micro decision that you make in your life has a profound impact that you don't even realize can really move the needle much more than any biohack out there.
I think it's great. That's great. All right. So let's talk about Peak Launch. This is a program that you have created. You have built. You're now teaching, I think, other doctors on how they can, utilize it. So just at its core, fundamentally, Peak Launch is what?
So test, design, and track. So, when we look at optimization, we look at healthcare in general. First of all, healthcare is failing. It's all about treating disease and illness and symptoms and what's your diagnosis code. And then here's the drug to treat it. So diagnosis, drug, big pharma controls that whole narrative. But most people, they're not necessarily sick. They just want to be better. I want even more energy. I want even more focus. I want a better body. I want a better sex. I don't want to live to 150. I want to perform at my best right now. It's optimization, what most people are looking for. So to do that, we have to first of all find what are the blind spots getting in your way. What do I not know? And so testing, it involves, scratching, going below the surface to understand what are the issues. Do I have issues with hormones, inflammation, gut health, micronutrient levels, blood sugar control, metabolic health is called, cardiovascular risk factors. Then we can, step 2 is design an actual plan. People ask me, I've heard for 25 years, John, doc, just tell me what to do. Like I hear all this noise out there, just tell me well, the answer is it depends. And my catchphrase now is one size fails all instead of one size fits all, because everyone's different. Everyone's unique based on your genetics, based on your biology, based on your environment. What you need, the plan that works for you is different than the next guy or gal. Yeah. And so when people ask, what should I eat? What should I not eat? What supplements? What peptides? What do I need? Well, it depends on all those factors. So precision medicine involves putting all those pieces together and what you should be eating and what supplements you need and how to improve your workouts. It depends on your genetics and your biology. And that's the crucial part of the design phase. And then step 3 is tracking. I am obsessed with data, with metrics, with KPIs, with, how do I know that what I'm doing is actually working or not? And so we're big on using wearables. So track your sleep, track your stress level, track blood sugar, track your nutrient, track your body composition. That's how you can really know if what you're doing is working, and you can see incremental improvement and change. And that's how we can really measure results. And so I
have a question on that. Any thoughts on wearables and radiation on your body? We're talking about, not drinking out of a water bottle, but then putting that on my body. So what's your
great question. So things like EMF, okay, electromagnetic frequency is very harmful. We know that without question. And industry will try to argue that it's not, and 5G is completely safe. Well, that's a whole other conversation.
That's another podcast. Yeah.
But very clear dangers and harm associated with EMF energy. When we're talking about an aura ring, which you'll wear, I would recommend just wear it when you sleep. I wouldn't wear it during the day. When you're talking even an Apple Watch, not for the texting and the phone and all that, but for tracking the measurables we're talking about. When we're talking about wearing a chest strap for heart rate variability, there's basically zero non-ionizing radiation associated with that. There's zero EMF associated with that. The signal you're getting from that is next to nothing. There is exponentially more from flying on a flight.
Yeah.
From any of those wearables. And so I don't worry about those. I worry about EMF. I worry about that kind of stuff. Like you should keep your phone far away from your body while you're sleeping, especially. Okay, especially if you have a Wi-Fi on, high signal coming from your phone. So keep that away from your body.
Yeah.
The wearables we're talking about, like for example, heart rate variability is a key marker. HRV or heart rate variability is a great marker for stress, for measuring. I call it system overload because people like to deny that stress affects them. The way to measure that, the best way to measure that is not wearing a device all day, every day and looking at the number because there's a bunch of noise there. You don't have much signal. It's all noise. If you wake up in the morning at 6 a.m., sit on your couch, get your cup of coffee if you want, sit on the couch, put the strap on, and for 2.5 minutes, you're getting a reading. And that's it. You take it off. But now you can compare apples to apples day to day and see changes in your heart rate variability. And it actually means something. It's measurable. There's no EMF associated with that. There's a negligible amount of any signal coming from that. So I don't get worried about that.
Okay. All right, good. I appreciate that. Yeah. All right. So test, design, track. Okay. So peak launch. So you build this, you test, you design something, you track it, you built it. Now you're teaching other doctors to help transform other people. And correct me if I'm wrong, for both men and women.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So talk about peak launch and kind of, how you're expanding that piece of the business and who that ideal clientele is for you.
Sure. So when I was in traditional medicine, I hit a wall with my health. I was burned out. I had moral injury. I was disillusioned. I was ready to leave, but I had no idea how to do it, what to do. And so I spent about a decade, probably invested $1 million in personal development and business coaching and mentors and masterminds and trainings. And I was able to build a great business. And I was able to leave traditional medicine and build the Gapin Institute and launch the Peak Launch program. And successful, doing great. Many doctors have come to me along the way. At first, they allow, you're leaving traditional medicine. Are you insane? Why would you do that? I had a 7-figure income. I had a lucrative surgical practice, and I literally walked away from it, started with zero again back in 2020, had zero income.
Why?
Why? Because it's a passion project. Why? Because I followed my heart. Why? Because once I saw the failures of traditional healthcare and how I can really transform that, you can't unsee that, you can't ignore it, and I had to leave. It's almost like I had no choice but to jump off that cliff.
Right.
But when I left, it's a calling.
A calling.
But when I left, I was prepared. I took the necessary steps. It was a lean launch. It wasn't just a jump off and figure things out.
Totally. But what did that voice? What was that internal voice? Like what was the first kind of real message of that to jump?
Yeah, it was, I'm meant for something bigger. I want to have a bigger impact in a different way. I want to run this the way I want to run it. And I want to provide healthcare in a very different way that's not burdened by insurance companies and big pharma and bureaucracy and hospital systems controlling the narrative, and really change it, make an impact.
And what gave you the courage to actually take it from idea to real business?
Yeah. Many years going through, first of all, training on the clinical side of it, the product delivery side of it. So I'm a surgeon by background. I'm a urologist. I'm very well trained in men's health, and urology was my background. And I spent 23 years as a board certified urologist. So I had that background, but very little of that applies to what we actually do now, what I do now, and what I teach. And so I had to go back to school and learn epigenetics, which is lifestyle medicine, and I had to learn functional medicine and peptides and hormones and regenerative medicine and all of this new technology. Like, things have evolved so much. And so when I started offering this different approach within my urology practice, it was an entirely new field at the time.
Yeah.
It was really just evolving. Now you hear the word longevity everywhere. People don't even know what that means anymore. But having done this for so long now, I learned the clinical part of it, the medical lifestyle, that part of it, but it was how to actually build a business around it. And that's what lights me up. The clinical part, I got that. That's easy. As a doctor, you can learn that stuff. That's fairly straightforward. How do you build a team? How do you build an ecosystem and a business, a culture around this? And that's what I've been obsessed with for the last 12 years. And so we've found incredible success over the last 4 or 5 years now in building the business. And other doctors who first laughed at me now are saying, hey, how'd you do that? How can I do that as well? And I hate my life too, just like you once did. How can I get out? And as I was going through the process, the transition myself, in the back of my mind, I love the idea of eventually being able to train those doctors how to do what I'm doing. And finally, earlier this year, I made the decision that it's time.
It's great.
And so I'm running now. It's Peak Launch MD for medical doctor, is teaching other doctors with my founders program. How do you step away from traditional medicine, which is broken, it's failing, they're miserable, they're burned out, they're disillusioned, frustrated, and build a business that they actually love and enjoy doing. And like, dude, I hope you can probably see it and hear it. I love what I do. I freaking love it every day.
No, it's great. I love what I do too. And being in alignment with what you love to do is so huge. And, to my knowledge, in medical school, and I think in law school, to my knowledge, as of date, I don't think they teach you how to run a business as effectively as they could. They don't teach you how to really grow a team, grow a culture. And I've always been a big believer that, they should hire me to come in and help them, and maybe me and you, right? Since I failed every medical class I ever took, and I walked out of my LSAT. So, but But to your point, I love what you're talking about. Taking your passion, finding fulfillment, helping people, and then helping other people help more people. So I think it's great.
Exactly.
I do
Exactly
want to
right.
touch on one more thing because you brought it up a couple of times, which is stress.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, and I can probably pull some stats on this, but people seem more stressed today than they ever have been. We get, the book Smart Brevity, if my memory is good, says that we check our phones 344 times a day. Great book if you haven't read it, Smart Brevity, from the guys of Axios.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite books. How to Say More with Less. We have news coming at us all the time, and positive, negative. I mean, social media, blah blah blah. I could, the price of groceries, the market, the economy, the blah blah blah. How do you handle stress? You said this earlier. I say it a lot too, and get back to center faster.
Love it. I love it. Yeah. And I love the question. I call it system overload now intentionally. I generally avoid the word for the most part because most people, we have this sense of, I'm fine. I feel okay. It doesn't really affect me. I'm able to overcome it. I'm able to just ignore it. And I'm an entrepreneur, leader, founder, executive, whatever. But the reality is it erodes away at every system in your body without you even realizing it. And so I call it system overload. We can actually test for it, measure it with a lot of the testing that we do. But I think it comes from it starts with recognizing that you can't eliminate the stressors in your life, right? Yeah. We all have financial concerns. We all have issues with our kids and their development and growth and education, et cetera. We all have marital issues that come along and life, right? Life, our business and staffing. Yeah. God, staffing is always a stressor. And so I think it's recognizing that you can't change what comes at you. You can't change the external, but you can sure as hell change the internal. And you could change the way you frame it, the way you adapt to it, the way you deal with it. And I think that's the big key. The way you frame it in your mind, I think is the key. Yeah.
Changing the narrative.
The narrative. That's right. Yeah.
There's an interesting, I used to talk, I talk still about a lot of like, hey, write a narrative, for a future date, and then as if something already happened, and then reverse engineer it. And then what do you got to do to execute to just kind of build what in your mind has already happened? But I read a great book called The Art of Possibility. And one of the things they talk about is taking that to a next level, which is write a letter from your future self. And so, to your point, sometimes to get really, internal, like you're talking about, and you can tap into and write a letter from your future self. I thought it was fascinating. I do it all the time. And from a journaling exercise, which you talked about earlier, it's a great journaling exercise to say, hey, today's December 31st, 2025. I'm you, and here's, ... So just wanted to share that. So, all right, quick speed round, Doc. A book that's had a big impact on you.
How to Win Friends and Influence People is a game changer for everybody in terms of communication. Tiny Habits. I love the writing of Ben Hardy.
Love Ben Hardy.
And it's so powerful. And all of his books are incredibly powerful. I love 10X is easier than 2X. I think that Who Not How is great. But the big one, they're great. They're great.
They are great.
Gap in the Gain, though,
great.
For me was where it's all at.
Great. They're all great and all great, all inspired via strategic coach Dan Sullivan. Great. All of those books are three of my favorites.
Yeah.
That's great.
Wonderful.
Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
Oh gosh. Treat others how you'd want to be treated yourself. You're either winning or you're learning, I think is a big one. A lot of us, when you have a setback or a loss, it can be crushing. I see it as an opportunity. What can I learn from this? How can I leverage this? And you hear all the stories of people who are, they tried to pitch something to 500 people and they got denied until finally the 500 first, so you're either winning or you're learning.
Yeah. I always look at it as that lesson was an expensive seminar, kind of frames it. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Learned how to say no to something. All right. That cost me X dollars. Right. More than I wanted. Finish this sentence. The number one thing somebody listening here can do to get to their next level and or start the journey of a healthier life. The number one thing that they can do to be preventative is
live with intention without questioning you. We tend to like follow the latest biohack, trend, whatever. But is living with intention. Be very intentional about what your plans are, or what your goals are, and what's the plan to get there.
Yeah.
And again, it's being very methodical, systematic, and it's just 1% better every day.
I think it's great. Dr. Tracy Gapin, I appreciate your time. Think community. I just want to kind of recap one important thing when it comes to living with intention. Find 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever that is, time block your calendar to actually sit down and plan your next day. Maybe at the end of the day, you plan you clean up the day, you plan your next day. Make intention part of your day, put it in your calendar. The old story goes that people would ask Albert Einstein his phone number. He would go to the phone book and look it up. And they would say, Mr. Einstein, you're one of the smartest people in the world. You don't know your own phone number. To which he would reply, I don't like to waste my brain power with information that's easily accessible. Think community, don't try to remember something. We have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. That's science. 80% are negative, 98% repeat themselves. What Tracy's talking about and what I'm talking about, calendar, time block with intention, and then take the time to sit down, clean up your day, plan your next day with intention, one small thing at a time, like we talked about earlier. Doc, tell everybody where they can connect with you and who your ideal clients are.
Hey, thanks so much. So gapininstitute.com, that's GAPIN institute.com. And if you go to gapininstitute.com/launch, a bunch of gifts there, high performance health handbook, ultimate peptide guide, a lot of other great tools that you can download as my gift to you. And any driven, successful leaders out there who want to optimize, have more energy, have even more focus, better body, and be their absolute best again, just reach out.
All right. Thank you very much. I enjoyed this talk. Think community. If Tracy can help you, please reach out. If I can help you, you can reach me at johndwoskin.com. Hold on just a second. We'll catch up a little bit. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much, Tracy. This was great.